Okay, now we have Professor G on social and business legislation and policy. Quoting again, "There is no proletarian, not even a communist movement that has not operated in the interests of money, in the direction indicated by money, and for the time being permitted by money, and that without the idealists among its leaders having the slightest suspicion of the fact." That's a quote by Oswald Spengler, Decline of the West. Here's another quote. "Also at the SDS convention, men from Business International roundtables tried to buy up some radicals. These are the world's leading industrialists, and they convene to decide how our lives are going to go. We were also offered ESSO, Rockefeller money. They want us to make a lot of radical commotion so they can look more in the centre as they move to the left." That was from James Coonan from the Strawberry Statement, Notes of a College Revolutionary. "The danger to our system clearly is not that the people will spontaneously rise up and dispossess us." Did you hear that? That's the danger. However, they know that it's not because people are not going to do it. I'll read that again. "The danger to our system clearly is not that the people will spontaneously rise up and dispossess us. The people never initiate anything. All successful movements are led from the top, usually without the knowledge of the movement, by men like your father with vast resources and brilliant plans. The real danger arises in the upper middle classes. Occasionally these people make vast fortunes through some brilliant technological innovation in their business or through the favour of local politicians that escape our influence. Because of their ignorance of the reality of our power, however, the new rich usually fall easily into our hands. For instance, they seldom realise until too late that with a mere nod from your father," I'll start that sentence again because I just missed a whole line. "For instance, they seldom realise until too late that the dozens of loans they may owe to apparently independent banks can be called simultaneously with a mere nod from your father. Recalled simultaneously. Since the advent of the corporate income tax, truly self-financing corporations are extremely rare. Most disquieting is when these upstarts acquire the covert or open support and advice of your father's major international antagonists. This is particularly dangerous in countries with long democratic traditions, where it is difficult to make our arbitrary rulings stick. Best solution is to enact comprehensive taxes and business regulations in the name of the common good. Such measures reduce the incidence of significant upstart competition to manageable levels. This policy, of course, strangles innovation and productivity. Reduction of the GNPs in countries under your father's control would be acceptable in the interests of secure power under the pretext of conservation, ecology, or no growth stability, except that if carried too far, your father's clout vis-a-vis his international rivals would be impaired. The most difficult problem for the money lord is determining the level of social and economic freedom he dares allow for the sake of his international power. Only method is to maintain a home base of carefully monitored relative freedom on which to base the economic and military strength required to maintain an empire of totalitarian dictatorships abroad. The following measures, however, are found necessary by nearly all money lords. Number 1, steeply graduated income tax. Income tax does not affect us because our money was accumulated before the tax was imposed, and most of it is now safely protected in our network of tax-exempt foundations. Foundation income and capital can legally be used to finance the bulk of our social, economic, literary and even political propaganda. In a pinch, it is easily diverted to illegal uses. Expensive studies required by our profitable economic operations can be legitimately financed through foundations. To the middle classes, however, income tax makes life into an endless treadmill. Even the most productive find themselves unable to accumulate significant capital. They are forced into the clutches of our central bank entourage for injections of the inflationary credit which we are privileged to create out of nothing. The self-financing wealth of the legendary 19th century robber barons and early 20th century tycoons is no longer possible. Although your grandfather owed his start to just those wide-open conditions, he was among the first of the super-rich to advocate the erection of the tax wall that is now in place. Please note that in democratic countries, eternal vigilance is required to prevent our tax shield from being riddled with loopholes by conniving legislators who are usually of the tax-oppressed upper middle class origins themselves.
Chevron Oil he's talking about.
No.
His father started that.
Number 2, business regulation. When upstarts slip through our financial tentacles and tax shields, perhaps with the aid of outsiders, a second line of defence becomes vital. Licensing in the crucial area of broadcasting has proven particularly necessary. This makes serious upstart-led mass political challenge impossible. Harassment by bureaucrats armed with arbitrary and voluminous industrial safety regulations is a new and increasingly effective technique. Security registration requirements to protect the small investor can cause fatal delays in an upstart's ability to raise capital on the stock market. Ecological considerations are easily perverted to stymie the plans of those who would upset the stability of our carefully planned system. Antitrust law, however, is our ultimate weapon. The handy doctrine of pure and perfect competition, which we have fostered in our universities, is ideally suited to convict any successful competitor at our discretion. If the competitor charges a lower price than ours, he is accused of unfair competition, aimed at driving us from the field to impair future competition. If he asks the same price as we, he is open to the charge of collusion. If he charges more than us, he is obviously exploiting his monopoly power at the expense of the consumer. Fortunately, the rulings of our bureaucrats are so complicated that even when successfully appealed in court, many years elapse before the ruling is rendered. By then, our goals are often achieved through harassment. Product quality, safety, and testing regulations are excellent methods by which we insulate our established industries from potential competition. Besides raising the costs of entry into the auto business, for instance, the cost of safety can be passed to the consumer along with a healthy profit markup. Number 3, subsidies, tariffs, and foreign aid. Although direct subsidies can occasionally be procured for our entourage of corporations by appealing to the masses' desire to preserve their jobs, this exploitative technique is usually too obvious. Tariffs are easily passed, but lead to retaliation against our foreign holdings. Foreign aid and soft, that is, sure to be defaulted, government-guaranteed loans, however, fill the bill perfectly under modern conditions. Foreign aid maintains our empire of foreign dictators abroad while providing guaranteed, highly profitable sales to our corporations at home base. Foreign aid should always be contingent on the purchase of goods, usually military hardware, that only our entourage of firms can provide. Few have the courage to oppose such altruistic aid to the starving masses of the Third World.